One Piece characters have some wild parents. Yeah, some are legends, some went out to buy milk and never came back, and some are just straight up insane. For example, Luffy's father is none other than Monkey D. Dragon, the most wanted man in the world and the leader of the Revolutionary Army. And his mother, well, she's unknown. Yeah, she's a big mystery. However, there is a wild fan theory that Crocodile might actually be Luffy's mom. Yeah, you heard that right. Some people believe that Ivankov used his Horm fruit to turn Crocodile into a man after giving birth to Luffy. Crazy? Sure. But impossible? Not in One Piece. Now, Dragon isn't exactly Father of the Year. The only time we've seen him show any care for his son was when he saved him at Logtown. But instead of raising Luffy, he left him with Garp, who then left him with Dadan, who is actually Luffy's mother figure. She raised him, if you can even call it that, since Luffy basically only came home to eat and sleep, but she clearly loved him. She risked her life to protect him and Ace, cried her eyes out when he left, and later we see her proudly collecting his bounty posters and celebrating his victories, like taking down Doflamingo. And after Ace's death, she even said her heart was breaking just thinking about what Luffy was going through. So no matter what, she'll always be on his side. Moving on, we've got Colin, whose father is Scopper Gabon and his mother is Ripley. So he's half human, half giant. And yeah, I have no idea how Gabon managed to pull this off. Although we already knew Gabon was legendary, I never thought he was this legendary. And yeah, that was literally the only reason I wanted to include Colin and his parents in this video. So now, let's talk about Roronoa Zoro, whose father is Roronoa Arashi, and his mother is Terra. Zoro's childhood wasn't easy. His mother died of illness when he was just a baby, and not long after, his father, a samurai from Wano, was killed by pirates. So with no parents, the only person he had in his life was Shimatsuki Kushiro, who became his father figure. Kushiro was Zoro's mentor, the father of Kuina, and the man who trained him at his dojo in Shimatsuki village for all of those years when he was growing up. However, Kushiro didn't just teach Zoro sword techniques, he taught him discipline and the true meaning of being a swordsman. He then even gave him Wado Ichimonji, Kuina's blade, after she passed away. So Zoro will forever be grateful to Kushiro. Oh, and fun fact, Zoro's actually a descendant of the Shimatsuki clan, which means Kushiro was technically family all along. Anyway, next up, we've got Yamato, and her father is none other than Kaido, the strongest creature in the world. And her mother? Well, that's a complete mystery. Now, Kaido as a father? Absolute disaster. Yamato instead looked up to Odin and declared herself as his reincarnation, which Kaido found so ridiculous that he chained her up, starved her, and locked her in a cave with 3 starving samurai with the real possibility that they'd kill her. Great parenting, right? Despite that, Yamato refused to break. She kept her faith in Odin's legacy and believed Joy Boy would come to free Wano, so when she met Luffy, she instantly knew that he was the one. She trusted him from the start and fought alongside him to take down her own father. And here's the thing, Kaido never even saw Yamato as his daughter. He called her his son, just because he wanted a powerful heir. Alright, talking about Kaido, we gotta talk about Franky. Because believe it or not, his dad is Queen. Yep, that Queen. Kaido's crazy left-hand man whose real name is Cyan. As for Franky's mom, that's still a mystery. But here's what we do know. When Franky was just 10 years old, his parents literally threw him off a ship, and now we know it was Queen who did it. And the crazy thing is how similar but yet completely opposite these two are. Both are brilliant engineers, both turned themselves into cyborgs, but that's where the similarities stop. Queen's a sadistic maniac who builds weapons of destruction and experiments on people, while Franky builds to protect, like building ships and inventions to help his friends to fight for what's right. But Franky never once saw Queen as a father. To him, his real dad was Tom, the legendary shipwright who took him in, taught him everything he knows, and believed in him. So Tom made Franky who he is today, and that's the only father figure he ever needed. Another straw hat we gotta talk about is Usopp. Usopp's father is none other than Yasopp, one of the best snipers in the world and a red-haired pirate. And his mother is Banchina, a super kind and loving woman who sadly passed away when Usopp was just a kid. Now let's talk about Yasopp, who literally left his wife and son behind in Syrup Village to chase his dream of being a pirate. While we know he genuinely loves his son, he's never once tried to reconnect with him, not even when Banchina was sick and dying. And you know that Usopp was screaming "Pirates are coming" at Syrup Village? Yeah, well, Usopp started lying that pirates were coming to the village because he hoped his dad would come back while his mom was sick. Yeah, heartbreaking. Benchina, on the other hand, gave Usopp love, support, and smiles, even as her health faded, and even though she passed away, her strength helped shape the man Usopp would become. Now, despite being all alone, Usopp still dreamed of becoming a pirate like his dad. But more than that, he wanted to become a brave warrior of the sea. Alright, continuing with the Straw Hats, let's talk about Nami and also her sister Nojiko. However, we don't know who their biological parents are, but we do know who their mother figure was. Belmere. She was a tough, no-nonsense former Marine who found baby Nami and Nojiko on a battlefield and took them in without a second thought. Even though she had no money and barely enough food, she gave them everything she had and loved them with her whole heart. And then, when Arlong came to take over the village, Belmere could have lied to save herself, but instead, she proudly said she was a mother, and that moment literally cost her her life, but it showed how deeply she loved them. Still, Nami was traumatized, forced to work under Arlong for years to buy back the village, and all of it was to honor Belmere's sacrifice. That's why, when Luffy finally defeated Arlong, Nami's breakdown wasn't just about being free, it was about finally honoring Belmere's sacrifice. So yeah, Nami and Nojiko's mom has always been Belmere. Now, let's talk about Portgas D Ace, whose father is none other than Gol D Roger, the king of the pirates himself, and his mother was Portgas D Rouge. But let's be honest, Ace never saw Roger as his father. He hated the guy. To Ace, Roger was just the man who abandoned him before he was even born, and because he was Roger's son, the world wanted him dead. But Rouge? Ace loved his mother, because when the world government started hunting down anyone connected to Roger, she did the impossible. She carried Ace in her womb for 20 months just to protect him. Yes, 20 months. And after giving birth, she named him Ace and died with a smile. So she literally gave everything just so he could live. Then, Roger, before his death, asked Garp to protect his son. And Garp, being Garp, saved Roger's son's life and dumped Ace off with Dadan, the same way he later did with Luffy. And while Ace grew up wild and angry, he learned from Garp that his mom was kind and loving. And that's why he took her name. Portgas, not Gol. He wanted to live his life his way, but in the end, Ace didn't die for what he did. He died because of who he was, the Pirate King's son. Still, Ace's real father figure, that was Whitebeard. After Ace tried to kill him multiple times, Whitebeard didn't just forgive him, he embraced him. And eventually, Ace wore Whitebeard's symbol on his back with pride. So Ace didn't die as Roger's son, he died as the son of Whitebeard. Now, let's talk about Sanji. His father is Vinsmoke Judge, the ruler of Germa 66, a mad scientist and an absolute trash excuse for a dad. And his mother is Vinsmoke Sora, the complete opposite, a kind and loving woman. Now, Judge didn't want kids, he wanted weapons. So he experimented on his own children, messing with their DNA to turn them into emotionless killing machines. But Sanji's mom, Sora, she literally took a drug to counter Judge's experiments, hoping it would at least save one of her kids from becoming a monster. And it did. Sanji kept his emotions while the rest of his brothers became heartless. Of course, to Judge, that made Sanji a failure. He abused him, treated him like trash, and later even locked him in a dungeon. The only love Sanji got was from Sora, always smiling at him even while dying. So after she died, Sanji lost the only person who truly loved him in the Germa Kingdom. But after escaping that nightmare, Sanji met Zeph, the real father figure in his life. After saving Sanji at sea, Zeph literally gave him all of his food and nearly starved to death himself. And in the manga, he even ate his own leg just to survive. Yeah, he ate his own leg. Then, after they got rescued, Zeph took Sanji in, raised him, trained him, and taught him how to be a real man. Even when Sanji was a brat, Zeph stuck by him. So yeah, Judge might have been Sanji's biological dad, but Zeph, he's the one who earned the title of father. Moving on, let's talk about Chopper. His parents were of course literally just reindeers. But after Chopper ate the human fruit, he was rejected by his herd. Even his own parents saw him as a monster, so they kicked him out the herd. But that's when Dr. Hiraluk came into his life, his father figure. Unlike everyone else, Hiraluk didn't see a monster. He saw a kid who needed love. So he took Chopper in, raised him, and gave him a reason to live. And Chopper, yeah, he adored him. But, as we all know, Hiraluk became sick. And in an attempt to save his life, Chopper risked everything to give him a special kind of mushroom. He literally fought his own herd, came back with a broken left antler, dragging a badly broken left leg, and was covered in many bruises and bloody wounds. So despite knowing he would die if he ate it, Hiraluk ate it anyway, with a smile, to show his love and appreciation to Chopper. He later chose to die on his own terms in an explosion in front of Wapol's men, laughing till the end, as he didn't want Chopper to feel the guilt of having killed him. Anyway, even though Chopper was born to reindeers, his real dad was Heroic. Another heartbreaking story is about Jewelry Bonney and her parents. Her biological father is unknown, but her mother? That's Ginny, a former revolutionary and one of Kuma's closest friends. Sadly, Ginny's life was full of tragedy. After joining the Revolutionary Army, she was captured by the world government and forced to become a wife to a celestial dragon. And after years of suffering by the hands of Saturn, who experimented on her, she eventually came back to her homeland and died from the sapphire scales disease, all thanks to Saturn. But before she passed, she had given birth to Bonney. And just like that, Bonney became an orphan, until Kuma stepped in. Now, Kuma was her father figure. He raised her, loved her, and did everything he could to give her a good life. And despite being the king of Sorbet Kingdom and a powerful revolutionary, he sacrificed himself and underwent horrific experiments by the world government, became a cyborg, and mentally died, all to save Bonney, who had also gotten the sapphire disease. And because of Kuma's sacrifice, Vegapunk eventually cured her disease. So yeah, Kuma was her true father figure. Moving on, we've got Nico Robin. Her father is completely unknown, but her mother is Nico Olvia. Olvia was an archaeologist from Ohara who risked everything to uncover the truth about the Void Century. Sadly, that also meant she left Robin behind when she was just 2 years old. So Robin grew up alone, thinking she had no family. She was bullied, called a monster for her devil fruit powers, and isolated her whole childhood. But despite it all, she became an expert archaeologist by the age of 8. Then, Olvia finally returned to Ohara, but she refused to acknowledge Robin at first. Not because she didn't care, but because she didn't want her daughter to be targeted by the world government. However, as Ohara was being destroyed by a Buster Call, mother and daughter finally reunited, and in their last moments together, Olvia told Robin to live on. And Robin, she's carried that weight ever since, determined to uncover the truth that cost her mother everything. Now, let's talk about Trafalgar Law. We actually don't know either of his parents' names, but we do know they were doctors. Good ones. Law was born in Flevence, a kingdom poisoned by Amber Lead. His parents, being the best doctors in the country, tried to help. But the world government, they didn't care. So when Flevence got attacked, Law lost everything. His parents were executed, his friends killed, and his home burned down. But while Law lost his real family, he eventually found a father figure in Don Quixote Rocinante, aka Corazon. Although he at first literally tried to kill him, as Law hated everyone and everything and knew he would soon die, that all changed. As Corazon saved Law from the darkness, gave him hope, and literally gave his life to cure him from the Amber Lead. As not only did he literally force-feed Law the Op Op no Mi, which eventually saved his life from the Amber Lead, he also sacrificed himself by hiding Law from his own brother just to save him. So, Law's parents were good people, but Corazon was the one who truly saved him. Talking about Corazon, let's talk about his and Doflamingo's parents. Their father, Don Quixote Homing, was a noble of Mariajois, just like their mother, Don Quixote Matriarch. But here's the thing, Homing did something unheard of. He gave up his god status to live like a normal human with his wife and kids. But big mistake. The world hated the celestial dragons, and when people found out who they were tortured, starved, and hunted. Their mom, Matriarch, even died from an illness from being on the run. And that absolutely broke Doflamingo. He blamed his dad for everything, so in the end he actually killed him and he brought his head to the celestial dragons, hoping they'd take him back. But instead of taking him back, they rejected him, calling him tainted, and that's when Dofi truly snapped and started climbing the underworld ladder with Trebol and his crew. Meanwhile, Rocinante went the total opposite way. He became a marine, working under Sengoku, and did everything he could to stop his own brother, working from within the Don Quixote pirates. So same parents, same trauma, but two completely different paths. Moving on, let's talk about Shanks, and this one's wild. His biological dad is Figureland Garling, one of the 5 elders and the so-called warrior god of science and defense. So yep, Shanks is actually a celestial dragon by birth, which is just crazy. But even though Garling is his father, Shanks wasn't raised by him, because he was found as a baby in a treasure chest during the God Valley incident by none other than Gol D. Roger. And from that point on, Roger became Shanks' father figure. So Shanks grew up on the Oro Jackson and was raised by one of the most legendary pirates in history. He laughs like Roger, parties like Roger, and carries himself with that same fearless energy. Garling might be his biological father, but Roger was absolutely his true father. And finally, well, I was going to talk about all of Big Mom's children and their fathers, but She's literally got 85 kids, so... Anyway, who are the best parents in One Piece? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and watch this video next.